Shortbread cookies, peppermint mochas, fiesta fudges. December is delicious month until the sugar crash hits. If you're tired of the energy spikes, mood dips, you're in the right place. This episode is your holiday survival guide for indulging smart, staying balanced, and actually feeling good after dessert. And we're going to be diving right into it after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your co-host, Scott Patton. Joining us, as usual, Martin Batista, health engineer. How are you doing today, Martin?
I'm doing great, except I'm trying to paste something into the private chat here. Yes, I'm doing good.
Awesome. And George is back. George, we have missed you for the last couple weeks, and so we're delighted that you are here
and hope you're well.
And we hope you're well. Yeah. And so that's pretty exciting. All right. So Martin, anything happened in the last week that you want to cover before we jump into our normally scheduled event?
Anything happened?
Have you learned anything
Well,
new?
I tell you this. Oh gosh, yeah, all the time. We are this close getting onto a new platform with the website. So I don't know if we launch it this weekend or if it's going to have to take another week. But boy, I'm sitting on pins and needles. So we'll see how it goes. Like, as far as my life goes, it's definitely trepidation. It's almost like before you go on the overseas voyage. You know, you're going, whatever you pack, if you forget it, too bad.
I have learned that. It's like, I'm leaving now. If I forgot something,
well. Yeah.
And of course, I'm always forgetting something. I'm in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and I just finished looking after 6 dogs and 9 cats for a week. 3 of the dogs belonged to the owner, and 6 of the cats belonged to the owner, and the rest were neighbors. And one of my major fears, of course, is losing the key, because if I'm locked out, like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get in?
Can you imagine? Yeah.
When you talk about trepidation, I had my trepidation experience about 20 minutes ago, because I arrived in my apartment here, and then after about half an hour, I thought, where did I put the key? Now, I have a rule when it comes to wallets, keys, and passports, is that I always pick a place and then I put it in that place, so it's never lost. And of course, I'm looking, and I cannot find the key to this place. I know that I have it here somewhere because I'm inside the apartment, so I can't be outside. If I was outside, it would be worse. And so I'm looking, and I go over. It's just behind me on the table by the bed. I go, that's where it's supposed to be, and I'm looking, and it's not there. Well, then I pick up the air conditioning remote, and I move it an inch, and there's the key underneath it. Somehow I had put the remote on top of the key.
Right? Yeah, covered over. Oh, man.
Oh, I thought, how am I going to tell the guy I'm in the apartment and I cannot find the key? Yeah. But I did. Right. So let's talk a little bit
about health. And sidebar, I have been learning about the use of AI in managing a business, so as to keep up with the neighborhood, because of course, if we don't employ and implement it, it's probably will be less efficient than our competition, and we'll end up on the, whatever you call it, the garbage pile of history, right? Anyway, that's what I know. So let's talk about sugar. And of course, sure enough, it appears that your Wi-Fi just had a sleepy
Yeah.
moment.
It has the odd sleepy moment, and that's
And
really
I can't
frustrating.
figure out the lighting. Like I can't turn off the lights, and it's overexposing me, right? So what's up?
You're a little light, yeah.
Yeah, I'm overlighted. Yeah. So if I were
This is what happens when you have too much sugar. Your Wi-Fi jerks around, and your lighting overexposes your face.
Mhm. All right, so let's run with it. So how do you get sugar? Well, there's this lovely concept called glycemic index. And glycemic index is measuring how close to glucose a food that you're eating is. Glucose being the thing that when it shows up in your blood, it acts as the source of energy. And you want to have just enough, but not too much glucose, because if you have more than what's needed, then in comes insulin and translates that through triglyceride pathway into belly fat, which is not what you want. And the other translation pathway is into fatty liver disease.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about moods, because what happens at Christmas, generally speaking, is everybody is on edge. It's supposed to be this festive time, but everybody is stressed to the gills. And of course, having a shortbread cookie is going to help with your mood. Having that extra beer is going to help with your mood, to relax you and make sure that everything happens for the best during your Christmas dinners, right?
Well, as long as you're an autonomic dominant, that is true. But if you're an oxidizer, it's going to turn you into an impatient son of a bitch.
So what's the split? Is it a 50-50 split?
I think so. I think it's about even.
So that's why when we have a family gathering of 15 people or thereabouts, you've got 7 of them that are like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then you've got 7 of them that are kind of ignoring everything.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I think that with the rising acidity, emotional intelligence goes away.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah. And when that happens, then you have people acting too quick. They're reacting instead of responding, and they don't think through their how they actually feel about it. Their ability to feel is reduced. They are mostly on the instinct or impulse, and
Not empathetic.
No. Straight back brain, no frontal cortex, just.
So something you've been doing has been bugging me for the last 7 months. We're having our Christmas dinner, and out it comes.
Oh, you'll tell him. Yeah.
So what can we do about that? Because this is like, it's emotional. It's not like our logical Spock brain thinking or anything like that. Like, you can't be thinking before. In fact, I think there's lots of skits on this where the wife is telling the husband, don't talk about this and don't bring up this. And as soon as they're in the room together, the first thing he does is bring up all the things that you want to, right?
Well, so I guess the number one would be education, the awareness of the fact that there is such a thing as internal pH, and then it's tied to your biological individuality, and that you need to know. Because if you are an autonomic dominant and overdo carbs, you will first become despondent, dark moods, and then if you keep overdoing it, you will get depressed. Like, stuff will be really like hard to get over. Like, you will be hanging on to emotions too much. Right. On the other hand, if you're the oxidizer, as I outlined, first come excitement. That's a good thing. But then come loss of social graces, impatience, and then comes bitchiness. And then finally, further out comes rage. Road rage is a fine example of overly acidic. So you need to figure out which type you are. You might be watching the party, right? Because as more carbs are served and eaten, some of the people will overshare and be just a little too jovial and then regret it. And the other people will be completely abrasive and regret it. So
So,
you can tell.
do you think it would help if people took a moment before they went to, before they went to dinner or whatever, to really like set intentions? Because it seems to me that we're all focused on, cooking the turkey and making the stuffing and setting the table, and it's all like run here, run here, run here, run here, run here, and then
Yeah.
when you finally sort of sit down together, it's you're not thinking like, we should, I'm grateful to be with everybody that's at this table with me. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're not. I guess that's the other part of it, right? It's like, this is a family thing that I have to, like I know my family, when we get together, it'll be a New Year's dinner or something. There'll be people that I wouldn't invite, but you can't not invite them, right? And so they're there.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I
Like
remember these very large dinners.
your sister's mother-in-law,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not somebody you necessarily want to have there, but she's going to be there no matter what you do. So
Yeah, yeah. I remember these large dinners where there were people with whom I had so little in common. Or
that's another issue too, right? Like, is because it'll be, if it depends, right? If it's a large group, usually it's like 3 or 4 branches of the family and the in-laws, and 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 the in-laws, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't know anything about these people, right? And they can be fine, but you have that awkwardness of no relationship, or you've got the awkwardness of 20 years of a relationship and it was never good.
Yeah, I put on my inquisitive learning mode. I want to learn what makes them tick. I want to know, how is it possible that a person could be telling stories so boring?
Hey,
You know, just find something that you want to learn about it, even though it's absolutely silly. Yeah, I don't know. Try to appreciate people for what they are, as they are when they arrive.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what can we do? So basically carbs is the big problem. Is too much fat or too much protein a
Well,
problem?
of course. So this depends on which type you are, right? So to the oxidizer, fat is calming and carb is irritating. And to the autonomic, it's the other way around. So if you have the autonomics, which we have just defined that they start with more emotional intelligence, well, if you feed them too much fat, they will drift out into the impatient and abrasive very effectively. So yeah, it can happen. Yeah, we need to watch. Need to watch the intakes. And if you find yourself drifting into an emotional instability, ask yourself why. It would be best if you knew which type you are before you even get engaged, so that you can say, you know what? 1 donut, okay. 2 donuts, miserable. Right?
Right.
Likewise,
And
a pint of oil, too much.
or a beer.
Well, yeah, whatever it is, right?
So it seems to me that one of the things that we need to do is we need to redefine what celebrating Christmas is, and get out for it's always like this feast, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
that causes more problems than anything else. But it's kind of like, why can't we have a small meal? Or
Yeah. But okay, let's accept it for what it is, right? So too many carbs will be served and alcohol will be served. So it's going to be more than enough carbs coming through. So if those are a problem for you, then you need to, number one, think of the antidote. And the antidote to too much carb is fat. So if you're going to eat a potato, pile it on with butter If you're going to indulge with alcohol, you make sure you eat something greasy first. Those are the opposites that will help to balance the oversized intake.
Right.
And just be aware, right? As you're drifting out into imbalance, just remind yourself, oh, that's why. Right. And then, of course, we have supplements that can help you manage that. Here's an interesting thing. For example, when you're triggered into fight or flight, something sets you off. And it could be either the acidity itself or some emotional stuff that happens that will take you into the stress mode. Cortisol is released by your adrenals, flooding your body. And then what? Then we are telling the body prepare to fight or prepare to run, right? Fight or flight, which means that a whole bunch of glucose is going to be sent to the peripheries, to the muscles. Like you're flooding with glucose. So the only one workaround is to get physical. Go for a walk or a run or something. Just work it off.
That's something that my family does really well, actually, because after we have dinner, we usually go. We used to take the dogs for a walk. Then there's no dogs left, but it's usually like go out for a walk, get some fresh air.
Yeah, move. Don't sit. Move. Yeah. So that's one. And then the second one, of course, you could take a cortisol ease, which we have a herbal thing that will just shut down the cortisol action. And the other thing you could do is you could supplement with berberine, which will help your body metabolize glucose more effectively.
Let's talk a little bit about berberine. Yeah, I got it here to bring up.
Yeah, there are 4 plants that are famously rich in berberine. And we took all 4 of them and made a herbal extract and have it in a bottle so that you can just take a few drops of this and it will help to manage the glucose spike that otherwise is quite unpleasant. Now, the link that you're showing is to a different product.
Oh, I thought this was the link you sent me.
I sent you 2 links. Anyway, you're on the right one. You're talking about berberine. Anyway, the link is a different one.
This is the link that you sent me.
I sent you 2 links.
Well, the other one was Heart Studies Formula.
Exactly, and that's what was on screen.
Oh, okay. So here we have the berberine.
Yeah, we're at the berberine. And there you go. It will help you manage all of the effects of too much glucose in your system. Remember, the consequences of too much glucose: higher cholesterol, fatty liver, glucose out of balance, and of course the end result, gaining weight. All of that will be managed when you take this along the way. Of course,
can you talk a little bit about how it helps the liver?
Right, yeah. So if you're a habitual carb overuser, then this is going to help you. So the liver is involved in what's called glycogen production. The liver is putting out the human form of glucose into circulation. If you overdo the resources, if you keep pushing the starchy things into circulation, you will end up with too much glucose in circulation. I don't know if you've heard of foie gras. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's a French fatty
goose liver. What happens is you can take a goose and you can just overfeed it, like it's force feeding a goose. They put the goose in a box, and then they feed it and feed it and feed it and feed it. and the goose gets exceedingly fat, and its liver just blows up with fat. It becomes a fatty liver. And then they kill the goose and enjoy the liver because it's rich in fat.
Right. Okay.
It's very unwanted in a human, right?
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
the reason
we
it happens, the reason it happens is because there's too much glucose to deal with. It just keeps coming in, and it overwhelms the resources. You become like the force-fed goose.
So the berberine helps the liver function better.
Yeah, it helps to manage the load.
So would you take this before you eat?
Yeah, you want to take it during, before, after all of it. Like you
All
need
of
to take it for a while. George would like to recommend to us some pate. So pate is a meal made with the liver and fat. Like you can take liver and fat and mix it together with herbs and spices. Then you end up with liverwurst, as the Germans would call it, or pate, as the French would call it.
Yeah, I used to eat that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually an exceedingly good source of vitamin B12, iron, and of course fats.
Right.
Yeah. So Scott, for you being the parasympathetic, the pate would be a perfect source of getting out of depression.
Mm.
Should you ever feel depressed, call downstairs to the restaurant for French pate.
Right. And I stayed away from liverwurst and that stuff, and I used to love it, and then I think, you hear stuff and see stuff and read stuff, and then you think, oh, I shouldn't have this and I shouldn't have that, and it's just like, oh, don't listen to that.
Yeah, you need to look 300 years back and look at what people did then. And there's where the sweet spot is.
Right. So Martin, did you want to talk about the heart studies formula?
Well, it did. That's the long-term solution, right? So berberine will let you manage only or mostly the glucose, right?
Yeah.
Blood sugar levels and the immediate problems, whereas the heart formula deals with the chronic problems that will develop. You see, when you overdo glucose, you will cause damage in the cardiovascular system with the VLDL, very low density lipids, that are used as the packaging for all of this stuff that you need to move around. So as your arteries are clogging with cholesterol, as they're hardening with the scar tissue that's trying to repair the damage, you need to at some point undo it. Otherwise, you'll end up with a higher blood pressure and eventually heart attacks and the likes.
Right.
So this is loaded with a whole bunch of trace minerals, especially chromium and vanadium, and those two are super important for managing. Yeah, there's a lot of ingredients here, but specifically the chromium and vanadium are there to help regulate the metabolization, digestion of the of the excess glucose. That's what we're dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, we've been talking about sugar because sugar is it. But if you're not eating a lot of sugar, are you going to have stuff that's going to add to your cholesterol, bad cholesterol? Should I put it that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Too much of the wrong proteins or too much of the wrong oils?
Well, Yeah, you can get into trouble in multiple ways, but this will definitely help you undo the damage that you caused by poor nutritional choices.
Okay.
And what's interesting about it, it will actually fix your metabolic function. So you will be a better athlete. Of course, to a 75-year-old guy who's just shuffling around, being a better athlete just means that he can walk up the stairs instead of having to rest after every third step. But still, it will take a young man to an Olympic level functioning. It will take a sick man to a better the ability to just look after his own affairs, right?
Right. Which is important. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would like to I don't know if this would be qualified as sharing a testimonial or not, but I am usually going up 2 flights of stairs, maybe 3 flights of stairs every day. Usually places I'm.
Yep. Okay.
Third floor.
Yeah.
And I'm going up and down the stairs, and I'm not I'm actually amazed going up the stairs. I'm just thinking wow, this, it's, I mean, there's effort, right? I mean, but it's just it's not the huffing and puffing like my mom, who has congenital heart failure, does when she just walks across the room. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm on my way to 70, and I'm walking really, really good, because longer you will continue walking really, really good, if you know what I mean, right? Yeah. So it's really something, and a part of one of the main reasons for that is I'm constantly on one of the X-rays. Right now it's iridescent, but heart formulas or liver. The liver formula will probably be the one of those two will be the next ones, because I rotate through them.
Yep, of course. Yeah, this is on my schedule to do also after Christmas.
So you can have a huge positive impact on your health by making sure that you are supplementing. You can eat some of the wrong things some of the time, and as long as you're making sure you're getting lots of the good stuff most of the time, you're not going to have a collapse.
That's the idea, right? You can definitely push back against the effects of your poor choices in your nutritional department.
Right.
Yeah, here's George. Yeah, this is an interesting line. The first symptom of a heart disease is a heart attack, many of which are massive enough to not be survived, right? The first notice you get, you're dead.
Right. Yeah, I keep hearing that.
Yeah, it's not gradual at all. It just, you're going, and then you're dead. Yeah. Yeah. I remember, that doesn't matter. Famous actors, do you remember Gandolfini? He was on the Godfather series in television.
No.
Okay, an actor. You don't watch TV. Anyway, so famous guy, right? 55 years old. Boom, gone. John Ritter, he was on Three's Company. Do you remember that series?
Yes, I remember John.
Again, John Ritter, in his 50s, gone. Boom. He was under doctor's supervision and all of that. Didn't help. Because why did it not help? Because they did not measure the right stuff. They don't have the tools to fix it. The tools to fix it are here in this bottle.
So, Martin, people think they're doing the right things, and then they have a heart attack and they're gone.
Yeah.
They're not doing the right things.
Yeah.
So they need to stop watching TV and start watching our YouTube channel.
Well, that would be that
Because-
would be an intelligent choice at minimum. Of course, they should also just listen to our podcast while walking.
Yeah, like I'm kind of torn. I want to share something with the audience, and it's not a pleasant thing. It's the father-in-law of one of my staff is in the hospital. Has been in ICU for 6 weeks, and and he's 73, so he's, I think, your age, 4 years older than me.
Yeah, I'm that age.
And he's having a devastating medical crisis, and it's really, really sad because he wants to live. He's 73. His grandson is growing up. It's a great time. And he had a small wound on his leg, and it got worse and worse, became severely infected. And then the infection spread throughout his body, leading to sepsis, which is life-threatening, complicated by chronic venous insufficiency, suspected diabetes, arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and it affected his lungs, kidneys, hearts, and circulation. So it's been...
this is a man on his way out, right? Like, heroic measures are available, but they don't really fix anything. And I counseled the same lady that you're talking about. We had a conversation about health. She was presenting with complications of nutritional mismanagement, right? 40-something-year-old woman in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, who taught her to eat? The mother who fed the father. Like, these people are just doing the wrong thing.
And then the problem is then there's this panicked, reasonably panicked, like this crisis, and there's very little that can be done. I mean, the length of medications that he's on, the respiratory support he's on, kidney care that he's on, the blood management.
These are all heroic measures that are simply putting off the inevitable. I mean, you're just using machines to prolong his life.
Yeah. And it's a financial burden, and it's a huge burden on the family.
Yeah, people without medical insurance are in such terrible situation.
Right.
When the technological solutions are offered, so they say, well, I can extend your life, but it's not really fixing anything. You're just prolonging it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so the reason that I brought it up was it's the old Geico thing where, you can take your car in and get the oil changed on a regular basis or not. And if you don't, then you'll see the mechanic sooner or later because your car doesn't work.
Yeah.
And this is really along the same.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a link to the GoFundMe, so anybody that wants to get into the details and maybe help.
All right. I mean, there goes yet another worthy human being or at least a family that you could possibly help to get out of their situation.
Yeah. But I think, we go through life and we don't spend any time thinking about, what are the consequences? Because the consequence is not like in 2 minutes. The consequence is in 2 years or 20 years. And, it's a lot that we have a lifestyle issue challenge. How do you make sure that you're eating well enough and you're drinking water and stuff that you should be drinking that's not pickling your liver, sort of thing. And then live well. And of course, everybody is happy until all of a sudden someone's in the hospital for 6 weeks and about to die. So, and that I think is part of the message is these feasts that we have every 6 weeks, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, back to school, graduation, Valentine's Day, are all times when you really need to be cognizant of what do I really want to do with my life?
Yeah.
And, some people, like my dad, passed away with leukemia, and he loved his scotch. And he says, you know what? If they told me I could live 10 more years, but I couldn't have a drink of scotch, I said, no thanks. I'll drink my scotch. If you make that decision, and that's your decision.
Some of it is conscious, some of it is with lack of education.
Yeah. And most of it's not conscious. Like most of us go through life, like you said, right? They eat what mom put on the table, and then they drank as much beer as they wanted to drink. So, and now it's like you're paying the piper. And
what's really interesting is when you ask somebody, how did you get sick? And it's first gradually and then suddenly, right? It's called a geometric progression, right? Like you're doubling. Here's a story. If you see a pond, and on the pond are lilies, and the lilies are doubling in size every day, and the pond will be completely covered in 30 days. Which day is the pond 90% free?
90% free?
90% free. It will be covered in 30 days, and it's doubling every day.
It's probably 90% free on the 20th day.
Yep, 22nd.
Oh, is that right? That was my guess. Total guess.
Total guess, but that's the point, right? You're half covered on day 29. You're quarter covered on day 28, and eighth covered on 27. So I was wrong. It's the day 26. So on day 26, 90% of your surface is still clear. You think everything's okay.
Yeah.
But since you have been doubling the negative effect, all of a sudden, boom, you're in the elbow of the exponential curve, and then it goes suddenly. And this is what you're describing, is that once you hit the crisis, it's...
Well, and the problem is, particularly in places that don't have universal health care, Canada, you would be in a hospital. Whether you'd be getting good care or not is another question, and whether or not you'd be on it, depending on what your problem is, you'd probably be on a 6-month to 2-year wait list. There's a lot of people now in Canada that they're offering medical assistance in dying. Like, oh yeah, like your kidneys aren't very good. Okay, well, like, we can give you this, or we could help you die. So, I don't want to suggest by any stretch of the imagination that I think the Canadian system is the best system or anything like that.
No,
but when you're in a place where you don't have any sort of coverage, now what you're doing is you're putting a huge onus on your kids, who are obviously the ones looking after you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the bad part. Is like, I don't understand the culture where the parent is accepting the care instead of accepting the fate.
Right?
Yeah,
it's a
you're mortgaging
game.
your children for another day alive.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're imposing a huge financial burden on your grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because it's going to take them decades to pay this off.
Right. And so this is individually, immediately in your face in this economy where there's no coverage. In the United States, this entire scheme is covered by insurance, and it's running up the national deficit, and it's just being piled on and passed on to the children's children, and so on. So
just in a different way.
Yeah, it's either hits you individually or it hits you collectively, but it's the medical model of, but we have the technology, let's use it. I'm not for it.
Yeah, and it's a difficult question, because my grandma was in a home and unable to basically live any sort of life for 7 years. And all of my aunts and uncles and parents wrote out a living will that said, if we're in that condition, please to let us go, right?
And don't resuscitate and don't
no
fix it.
resuscitate or anything like that, right? Because of the quality of life is bad. And that I agree with. But it's a slippery slope, because all of a sudden you give doctors and nurses and power of attorney and everybody else this, well, but Joey's, he's 7 and he's really sad. Like, we should just let him assisted suicide him, right?
Well,
or Susie.
Not even that, like as you arrive at your 75th birthday, we preventively just take you out because you will die anyway.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm no longer a contributing member of society. I am a parasite. So, everything I've done for the last 70 years doesn't mean anything. And that's what's happening in Canada, which is why this is always such a hard conversation to have, because it's like, there's so many people are posting, I was depressed and I wanted to kill myself when I was 12, and oh my God, I'm 52 and I'm so glad I didn't, right? So it's kind of like, who's playing God here? Like, you just can't do that. And so
those are difficult ethical questions that we need to wrestle with.
And we need to keep it so that they're wrestled with. What's happening in my opinion in Canada is the slope is slippery and we're sliding down it. In other words, we're not wrestling with it. We're just saying, Joe is, he's not feeling too good today. He's 83. Let's just give him a drug that kills him.
Yeah.
But
that's one part. The other part is the ownership of this mind space about health by the pharmaceutical companies and their model of what health and health care should be, which is very broken. And that alone is causing a lot of this trouble, because once you have separated the cost of care from the consequence of it, then it's delivered, it's used, regardless of its benefit. So you can go either overboard with too much care and creating national debt, or once you realize that you have that crazy national debt, you just start pushing the button for eliminate. This one costs too much. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So something we want you all to be thinking about. And I guess in the bottom line is the decisions that you make with your spoon and your fork today and in the next 3 weeks is going to impact dramatically your overall health, in particular 20 years from now.
Yeah.
You want to be a happy grandma and grandpa with a healthy outlook on life, healthy body, able to get onto the floor and play with your grandkiddies. And it starts today, between getting enough exercise and looking after your body. We recommend watch a lot of our videos, contact Martin, get him to give you some advice and a plan, and also look at the products that we have on Life Enthusiast, because there's lots of things there that can really, really help keep you healthy. And it's a lot easier to keep you healthy than it is to take someone who's unhealthy and make them healthy again.
True enough.
And George, he says, and let's give him the last word, Big Pharma is criminal. I could go on for hours, but won't.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
And thanks.
We'll do it for you, George. We'll go on for hours.
And we'll be back next week at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific on Wednesdays. Martin, do you have one last word of wisdom before we sign off?
Learn your biological individuality. Once you figure yourself out, you will know why you're making better choices or how to make them.
Perfect. You've been watching and listening to the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Martin. Appreciate you and appreciate your wisdom. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Hey.